The soul people.
Nergoes de Terra.
Ame, plural, ames, religion, philosophy, soul, moral, intellectual, centre, soul, heart, mind. Rica, rich, in, adjective, rico, rica, wealthy, adjective.
America. Rich soul or soul rich.
Samuel Fullwood, the Indian Queen. January 2nd, 1704.
Oh, freedom over me. And before I be a
Trade card and Hill collection. Hill 97-6 advertises large superfine cards made by Samuel Fullwood and is illustrated with a queen shaded by a parcel held by two attendants entitled the Indian Queen. The card is entitled both ends SF.
oh, freedom, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Over me. And before I be a slave,
Lies may spread, but the truth will always be in your blood.
to my Lord and be free.
Indigenous music of North America, which includes American Indian music. What you mean includes American Indian music? Who else is indigenous but us? Not Native Americans, us. This is what I'm saying when they write these descriptions and these fairy tales and shit is wrong. We created jazz, rock, blues, hip-hop, classical, film music, spiritual, folk songs, R&B, gospel, and reggae. I mean, what? Here's the mother of rock and roll, Big Mama Thornton. May the great spirit rest her soul. Here we have the father of rock and roll, Chuck Berry. May the great spirit rest his soul.
Oh, what's got the matter, baby?
Nice whip.
What the hell are you doing? Who are you supposed to be dressed like, James?
Little Wayne. It's what he wore at his last runway show.
Oh, Lil Wayne.
You told me I needed to try to fit in, so I stayed up all last night studying your culture.
I'm sorry, what?
And to those who say jazz is the only indigenous American art form, I say listen to a little Jay-Z, my friend. Oh!
soul people, a very talented people that have influenced this whole plane of existence, a world-class culture that is unmatched and admired by the world, whether it be music, fashion, academia, masonry, sports, vernacular, culinary traditions, arts, etc. We are the light of the world. Remember, when they copy you, it's because we are the original of it all. Giovanni Battista Tiepolo, Italian, 1752, his depiction of American Indians. Suter Madhouse, 1730. Sounds like some German shit. Couldn't find too much information on this. This is either the Aztecs or the Mayans civilization. And these are maps from prior to Columbus. Columbus wasn't the first explorer to come to America either, which they try to tell you. There were several explorers that came here prior to Columbus.
Oh Lord, give me more time to pray. I've been in the storm so long. I am a motherless child singing. I am a motherless child singing. Oh Lord, give me more time to pray. I've been in a storm so long. Lord, I need you now. Singing, Lord, I need you now. Singing, oh Lord, give me more time to pray. I've been in a storm so long. I've been in a storm so long. Singing, been in a storm so long. Singing, oh Lord, give me more time to pray. I've been in a storm so long.
Paper genocide, psychological warfare, which takes away identity and culture and does cause historical trauma of the American Indian. Here we have Walter Ashby Plecker. May he never rest in peace. He was an Anglo-Saxon physician and public health advocate who was the first registrar of Virginia's Bureau of Vital Statistics, serving from 1912 to 1946. He was a leader of the Anglo-Saxon Clubs of America, a white supremacist organization founded in Richmond, Virginia in 1942. He drafted and lobbied for the passage of the Racial Integrity Act of 1924 by the Virginia legislature. It institutionalized the one-drop rule. One-drop rule. The one-drop rule was a legal principle of racial classification that was prominent in the 20th century United States. It asserted that any person with even one ancestor of black ancestry, one drop of black blood, is considered black, Negro, or colored in historical terms. Now let's look at the terms and labels that we have been given over the years. American Indian. I'll be breaking this down in two parts. First, we have American. Noun, a native of America. Originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Indian, adjective, from India, and this from Indus, the name of a river in Asia, pertaining to either of the Indies, east or west. Indian, noun, a general name of any native of the Indies, as in East Indian or West Indian. It is particularly applied to any native of the American continent. Now I would like to focus on the first definition given for Indian and dig a little deeper and try to find out more about the word. The term Indian, in reference to the original inhabitants of the American continent, is said to derive from Christopher Columbus, a 15th century boat person, colonizer. Some say he used the term because he was convinced he had arrived in the Indies, Asia, his intended destination. They think they slick. You see how they tried to downplay Columbus? Man, this shit is laughable. Make it make sense. But anyway, Hindustan. In 1492, there was no country known as India. Instead, that country was called Hindustan. Since the partition of India in 1947, although limitedly, Hindustan continues to sometimes be used to the present day as a secondary name for the Republic of India. Next, we move on to the term copper color. And if your family was anything like my family, then you remember stacks of these on the end tables. Yeah, you remember. Right next to that plastic covered couch your ass couldn't sit on. Copper color. Copper is a reddish brown color that resembles the metal copper. The first recorded use of copper as a color name in English was in 1594. There's no definitive date that I can find when we were labeled as copper-colored people. But if you refer back to the 1828 definition for American, that's a start.
Next, let's move on to the term Negro. And we're going to analyze two other forms of the word, IGGA and the IGGER. Negro, dated, often offensive, a person of black African ancestry. Dated, often offensive, a member of a group of people formerly considered to constitute a race. A people formerly considered to constitute a race? See race entry 1 since 1A. Of humans having African ancestry and classified according to physical traits, such as dark skin pigmentation.
Early use for the term nigger. The variants nigger and negar derive from various Romance words for black, including the Spanish and Portuguese words negro, black, and the now pejorative French nigre. Etymologically, negro, noir, nigre, and nigger ultimately derive from nigrum, the stem of the Latin niger, black. In its original English language usage, nigger, also spelled Niger, was a word for a dark-skinned individual. The earliest known published use of the term dates from 1574 in a work alluding to the Nigers of Ethiopia, bearing witness. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the first derogatory usage of the term nigger was recorded 2 centuries later in 1775. In the colonial America of 1619, John Rolfe used negars in describing the African slaves shipped to the Virginia colony. Later American English spellings negar and negar prevailed in New York under the Dutch and in the metropolitan Philadelphia's Moravian and Pennsylvania Dutch communities. The African burial ground in New York City originally was known by the Dutch name Begra Platz van de Negar, Cemetery of the Negro. An early occurrence of negar in American English dates from 1625 in Rhode Island. Lexicographer Noah Webster suggested negar spelling in the place of Negro in his 1806 dictionary. Let's take a look at the concise Oxford Dictionary of Current English, Fowler, H.W., Henry Watson, 1858 to 1933, and see the definition for nigger. Keep in mind that they change these definitions all the time.
due to the fact that we're looking back into the past to find out who we are. Never trust digital sources. Digital sources are being changed every day. These people are actively going back into dictionaries, encyclopedias, into history books, and adding the term African American when we all know we weren't referred to as African American until 1988. The true knowledge lies in these old books. Most of these books are very expensive. And if you know, like I know, if you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in a book. Statement no longer rings true. We're doing our due diligence. We're doing our research. We're doing our genealogy. We're speaking to our elders. We're getting first-hand accounts straight out of the horse's mouth. We're no longer accepting the narrative given to us by a foreign occupation that wants nothing but to destroy us and to take everything away from us. Next, we go into the term black. Ask yourself this, because we all play with crayons as a child. We all know our colors. If I gave you a box of Crayola crayons and asked you what color matches your skin, would you choose Indian red? Or maybe chestnut? Or neither? We come in all different shades, from the darkest of browns to the lightest of browns. Hell, I know some Niji so goddamn dark you'll mistake them for black, but yet they're still brown. So it's not in reference to our skin or our nationality. Why do you consider yourself black? Why do you still accept that term as a term of endearment? Black, of the very darkest color, owing the absence of or complete absorption of light, the opposite of white. Black was used of dark-skinned people in Old English, of coffee with nothing added, attested by 1796. The meaning of fierce, terrible, wicked is from late 14th century. The figurative senses often come from the notion of without light, moral or spiritual. Latin Niger had many of the same figurative senses: gloomy, unlucky, bad, wicked, malicious. The metaphoric use of the Greek word males, however, tended to reflect the notion of shrouded in darkness, overcast. In English, it has been the color of sin and sorrow at least since the 13th century. The sense of with dark purposes, malignant, emerged 1580s. In black art, necromancy, it is also the sense in black magic.
It's time to stop with the victim mentality and actually take control. Because all of us have been making a mistake.
Explain why blacks won't get reparations.
We can't get reparations because we haven't been officially classified as a nationality. African American is not a nationality. Black is not a nationality.
Reparations can only be paid from nation to nation. And back of me are all the cases when the United States gave people reparations.
You ever wonder why they spend so much time changing our racial identity? First, it was this, which means slave. Then it was colored. You see how we're referred to by whatever name is chosen by the government? In TikTok, this video is not real, scripted, and for entertainment purposes. And even classified Native Americans were referred to as colored. But they got that changed real quick. While a lot of people getting mad, sitting around seeing all of these other nations getting their reparation, we as black or African American people are not respected by the law.
The police runs your tags. What do they say? Oh, black female or black male. As soon as they put that over the radio, they're automatically giving authority to kill you because you're operating under a coded system. A United States 14th Amendment citizen is a corporate citizen that is owned by the United States government.
Why is it that certain people are called by their nationalities, like Japanese, Russians, Germans, Nigerians? Lupita even said, I wasn't aware that I belonged to a race called black until I came to America. They only do this here. That's why they can say stuff like this.
Don't come out here again. In fact, don't ever come on Indian collective property unannounced again.
In law, color means fake, artificial, does not exist. So why are we identifying with something that does not have legal status? Why are they still legally calling us black when it does not mean anything because that is a color? And this term, African American, who does that apply to?
African American.
And this is what they name you. Because I know a white guy who grew up in South Africa. And he now lives in America. He is an African American. And more
I want to talk about being African American legally. There are Europeans in this country that are legally labeled African American. We are legally labeled African American also. If you've ever watched The Old Guard or Snow White and the Huntsman, this character, her name is Charlize Theron. She was born in South Africa, so when she comes here, she is labeled South African American actress. But people like to say to be African American, you have to be a descendant from a slave. Not according to the law. An African American is a black American of African descent. Let's look up what descent means. Background of a person in terms of family or nationality. Elon Musk was born in South Africa. Legally, he is referred to as a African American, plus his Canadian citizenship. Y'all see this account warning I've been having on my page for about 3 months? We gonna have to continue this topic on YouTube so I can keep posting for y'all.
Now let's look at the term African American and the controversy that surrounds the term. By now, we should all know who this man is. Reverend Louis Jesse Jackson himself. And if you don't know who he is, here's a brief description. Jesse Louis Jackson is an American political activist, Baptist minister, and politician. He was a candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination in 1984 and 1988 and served as a shadow U.S. Senator for the District of Columbia from 1991 to 1997. This is an article published by the New York Times on January 31st, 1989. States, a movement led by the Reverend Jesse Jackson to call blacks African Americans has met with both rousing approval and deep-seated skepticism in a debate that is coming to symbolize the role and history of blacks in this country. The people never asked for this. The people never wanted this. Jesse Jackson and the so-called black leaders took it upon themselves to use this term. And as you've seen in the description before, they don't even refer to him as an African American. The term, used for years in intellectual circles, is gaining currency among many other blacks, who says its use is a sign that they are accepting their difficult past and resolving a long ambivalence toward Africa. We are ambivalent to the term because we are not African American. The term has already shown up in the newest grade school textbooks, been adopted by several black-run radio stations and newspapers around the county, and appeared in the titles of popular books and in the conversations of many blacks as they warm to the idea and speak of visiting Africa one day. I'm willing to bet my last $2 Jesse Jackson has always been a puppet of the United States government. Why else would he sell out his people for $1? For many, the issue is already settled, not only in their minds, but in their hearts. Whenever I go to Africa, said Roger Wilkins, a senior fellow at the Institute for Policy Studies, I feel like a person with a legitimate place to stand on this earth. This is the name for all the feelings I had all these years. Nothing but a bunch of bullshit. And you all know, like I know, anybody who is a true leader of our people was always murdered in cold blood due to some questionable circumstances. Nothing but a government agent, a turncoat, used to infiltrate his own people. It's a damn shame. Murdered, jailed, prosecuted, lied on. Fucking shame.
These are the Seneca people of the Seneca Falls Village in New York. They were located in Central Park. The village had been there Lord knows how long. Well, these people were murdered and their land was taken from them. Everything they had built was destroyed. But I found something very interesting. There's also the massacre of Niagara Falls, and I want you to take a look at this as well. Keep in mind, this tragedy happened in 1857. This is supposed to be a depiction of what took place that day, and I've already shown you who the Seneca people are. Let's read the description. Tragedy at Devil's Hole, the Devil's Hole Massacre. On September 14, 1763, more than 300 Seneca, I've already shown you who the Seneca are, and other American Indians, let's keep it all the way 5,000. The term Native American wasn't a term until the late 1800s. It was non-existent at this time. They attacked a British supply convoy en route from Fort Schlosser to Fort Niagara. The 80th Regiment, light of foot, that was camped nearby sent a rescue party, which was also ambushed. When reinforcements from Fort Niagara arrived and found only a handful of survivors, they withdrew. The death of about 100 men ended British plans for offensive operations around the region. You got to be shitting me. You're telling me in September 14, 1763, the people look like this, but in 1857, the people were dark-skinned? Come on with the bullshit, man.
The rappers. You know the rappers. They all got names like that. Snoop Doggy Dogg, Ice Cube, Q-Tip, Method Man. My favorite was always Flavor Flav from Public Enemy. We got the funky, fresh fly flavor. Now I have lyrics from the bank of reality. I kick the flies to maneuver technicality. Do a dope track. I love that guy.
I don't know anything about that. But it makes me think about Indians. You know, they got names like Red Cloud, Crazy Horse, Green Bear, Black Elk. That kind of shit. Yeah, Indians, niggas, take me.
Psalms 83. Keep not thou silence, O God, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gebal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Assur also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. Selah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kison, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeb. Yea, all their princes as Zebah and as Zalmunna, who said, Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. O my God, make them like a wheel as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth the wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempests, and make them afraid with thy storms. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Lord. Let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone, Heya, art the most high over all of the earth.